The epidemiologists figured out another COVID-19 symptom, but this symptom, they thought it wise to keep this symptom secret from the public. But not to worry, because I, Steve Hirsch, have been hard at work doing in-depth investigative reporting. And I'm here to tell you that my anonymous source at the American Academy of highly esteemed and well-regarded epidemiologists has revealed an earth-shattering, heretofore unknown fact. COVID-19 is causing brain shrinkage in otherwise asymptomatic young adults between the ages of 18 and 29. Yes, the epidemiologists suspected something amiss when college-educated young people started running around Minneapolis, Seattle, San Francisco, New York, and other cities saying things that only people with diminished brain capacities would say. Defund the police, they said. And when older liberals tried defending defund the police protesters by saying that defund the police protesters really mean reform the police, the young protesters said bullshit. They said that they really wanted to abolish the police and also abolish the courts. They took over 6 square blocks in Seattle and they called themselves Chaz. Then they changed their minds and they called themselves CHOP. Then they yelled at each other, arguing which is the better acronym. Now, my anonymous source, I'm telling you, he's very high-ranking in the American Academy of highly esteemed and well-regarded epidemiologists, and he's as reliable a witness as there can be. He says that the epidemiologists tested 300 chanting protesters who were young and who showed no COVID-19 symptoms. They tested 2 things. Number 1, they stuck one of those cotton swab thingies into 300 defund protesters' noses, and besides finding an unexpectedly high number of nasty-looking boogers, they found all of them positive for COVID. And number 2, they did a CT scan on all of their brains. And they found that in every last one of the defund protesters' brains, there were odd vacuous spaces in their cerebral cortexes, which the epidemiologists say indicates apparent shrinkage of between 20 and 30% of their brains. And my anonymous source says that within the American Academy of highly esteemed and well-regarded epidemiologists, they call it COVID brainitis, but they're not telling the public. I'm not sure why they're keeping it secret, but then again, I don't know a lot of things. Like, for example, I don't know why we, the public, were told that masks wouldn't help at all, except for healthcare workers. Then we were told that they help everyone. Then we were told that they cause something called hypoxia. And then, I don't know, the list goes on. I can't remember. But look, as reliable as my witness is, I'm a skeptic, so I went myself to some of the protests and interviewed defund the police protesters to find out if young people's brains were really shrinking. I said to each protester that I spoke with, I said, the Minnesota cop, Derek Chauvin, by digging his knee into George Floyd's neck and not allowing George Floyd to move, the cop was acting in reckless disregard of the consequences of his actions. And they agreed with me. The protesters agreed, which made me think that maybe their brains weren't shrunken after all, or not that bad. But when I said that inciting riots without considering how the riots might result in deaths is another form of reckless disregard, the protesters stared blankly at me. They were about peace and love, they said. One of the protesters said he supports the riots, but that's okay because I don't even eat meat. I'm against killing except plants, but even then, when we pick fruits and vegetables, we should do it in a more humane manner so as to minimize the unnecessary trauma to vegetation, because who knows? I mean, they probably feel pain when people pick their stems. 17 people have been killed because of the riots. That's right. In addition to George Floyd, who died because of a murdered cop's disregard, 17 other people died, most of which were black people, because of libtard disregard. Okay, so for the sake of anyone watching this video who is satire challenged, I made up the stuff about the American Academy of highly esteemed and well-regarded epidemiologists, and the stuff about brain shrinkage, and the thing about the vegan worried about hurting plants' feelings. I made that up too. But I didn't make up that the Seattle protesters want to abolish police and the courts. And I didn't make up that 17 people have been killed at the riots, most of which were black. And I didn't make up that people have been dying and more will die because of libtard disregard. I love saying libtard disregard. Not just because it rolls off the tongue so nicely, but because it speaks to a central tenet of conservatism, which is that before taking action to achieve a goal, you really ought to put at least some effort into considering the unintended consequences of that action. Like before taking over a police precinct, maybe consider what'll happen when someone needs a cop fast. So I'm going to end this video by saying what I always say at the end of my videos, which is, please go to my website, stopdeficits.com, and you can go there and subscribe to my e-newsletter to get notifications whenever I post new videos and podcasts. It's free. It's totally free. And why not subscribe? Why not listen to informative videos and podcasts that are also funny? Again, visit stopdeficits.com and subscribe to the Steve Hirsch newsletter. Bye-bye.